Welcome to the 50th episode of the Piston Fanatic. I'm your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a diehard Piston fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also been a varsity basketball coach of a very successful program in northern Michigan. Currently, my daughter and I are coaching one of the best AAU teams in the country. Well, fans, I appreciate every one of you that have listened to even one episode of the Piston Fanatic, but this is the 50th episode. It's kind of amazing to me. I just started at the beginning of the season, just before the season started, and I was excited about doing this because I am optimistic about our Pistons. I watched them again my whole lifetime pretty much, and there's been lots of ups and downs in our franchise, but I really do feel that this is an exciting time, and so that is why I decided to jump on. And we have some more exciting news today. Silas has been hired as the number one assistant for our Detroit Pistons. And as most of you know, that he was the head coach at Houston, and they just fired him at the end of this year. And Coach Silas was really set up for failure. He, was hired on when James Harden was still a part of the Rockets. And then just before he started his first season, they traded him. And then all of a sudden, now they're in the rebuild mode, just kind of like Coach Casey got stuck in. So, he was set up for failure, and he did what they wanted, really. They wanted to tank these last three seasons, and they got them high in the draft the last three seasons, just like our Detroit Pistons. So, but I do think that, he is a great hire. I do think that assistant coaches matter. And I think that having a lead assistant with his qualifications, his experience, and most of all, I have heard nothing but great things from his players that have said how much he cares about his players and how great he is at building relationships with his players. So, Silas, I think he's been known for his work with teams on offense, especially. But he has his dad. I watched his dad play. His dad was a great player on some championship Celtics teams. He had this kind of one-handed jumper. He was tough, rugged, power forward. He was also LeBron James' first head coach when LeBron got drafted by Cleveland in his rookie year. So it's exciting for us to have him. And I was hoping that maybe that we got Kevin Young. But Kevin Young, Monty Williams was with him in Philadelphia, and he brought him when he got the job at Phoenix. And so I thought maybe they would bring him, but we found out that the Suns made Kevin Young the highest paid assistant in the NBA, and I know that he was liked by the players there, and so Kevin Young is going to be an assistant there. I was hoping maybe we would get Charles Lee as an assistant. So who knows where Charles Lee is, because Adrian Griffin got the job in Milwaukee. So I'm imagining that as of right now, he doesn't have a job. So I know that Devin Booker, I think there was reports that Devin Booker wanted him to be the head coach. And so anyway, they went a different direction. They hired Frank Vogel as their head coach, and it's pretty funny. Frank Vogel got a 5-year contract for $31 million, which is only about $6 million a year. Monty Williams, who got fired from that job, got double that much money. And so, and Frank signed his contract after I think he knew probably how much money Monty Williams was getting. So it's just intriguing what happens in the NBA. Monty Williams is the highest paid coach in NBA history, making over $12 million a year. Popovich was making $11 million a year, and so, I'm excited though. I'm excited about that we got Monty. I'm excited that we have Silas. So I think we're going to have a great culture. I think they're going to fit in great with the players that we have. So I know that Kevin Ollie, who was rumored to be the front runner for our job, that Troy Weaver wanted him, but Kevin Ollie was hired as an assistant for the Nets. So I was concerned about him, that he had no coaching experience in the NBA really, and he didn't do the last 3 years he won the one national championship. The first year he took over at Connecticut, but then the last 2 years he was there, they were below 500. So, but good luck to Kevin Ollie, and so he can get some experience there. I think his goal is to be a head coach in the NBA, and so I think that's a step that he needs to do that. Toronto still has no coach, but the Nets did hire Sam Cassell. So that's a good hire for them. Um, excuse me, I think the Celtics hired Sam Cassell. The Nets are the ones that hired Kevin Ollie. So Sam Cassell is going to give somebody that's been in the league longer and around longer that's going to help the Celtics with their young coaching staff because they had a real, they took a lot of criticism. They ended up getting stuck at the beginning of the year. Ime Udoka got fired, and so now all of a sudden they were stuck with a real young new coach with a young staff. And so bringing in Sam Cassell will make a difference. Did want to mention a little thing. I get, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I do a lot of research for this podcast, and I am get a little tickled by listening to different people talk about the .5 second offense that Monty Williams runs. So all these people, all these podcasters are talking about how all of our players, who's going to fit in and who's not going to fit in Monty's offensive system, and this .5 thing, and this guy's not going to fit. And one of the, they just, how can you know that? We don't know exactly what system he's going to put in. I do like quick ball movement. It does matter. My experience as a coach is moving the ball from side to side quickly creates awesome offense for your team. It creates opportunities to drive. It creates open outside shots. It creates a lot of things. But, like people say, I've heard podcasters more than one say, oh, James Wiseman, he's toast, because he doesn't move the ball fast. So Monty's not going to like James Wiseman. Well, we don't know that. And it's really way too early to tell. And so we just have to be patient and wait and see what's going to happen there. So I also wanted to talk a little bit briefly about the draft. And I just wanted to say that one thing about where players are drafted makes a big difference. So you could draft, we have a group of players that are rumored to go between 5 and 9, and I think will matter for each of those players. One player might fit good on one team and not on another team, and sometimes it's the system, sometimes it's playing opportunity they get, sometimes it could even be the head coach. But I am still excited about our Cam Whitmore, and he talked about his comps for himself and Mikal Bridges, who played at Villanova also, and Jaylen Brown, who's all NBA player, and Miles Bridges, who played at Michigan State. He compared him to himself too, and those are really good comps. They're all very athletic. They all can attack the basket, and they have some outside shooting. But I have one for everybody, and that's Zion Williamson, and he is not nearly as big as what Zion is. He's probably at least 50 pounds lighter, and so they're not. But the explosion and the ability to go off 2 feet that Cam Whitmore has. So one thing I know there's talks about now. All these players are going around to tryouts. They're going to each camp, and they're each team that invites them in, and they get to work them out. And so I would love to know, but Troy has a history of not letting it out. He doesn't let the public know who he's brought in for workouts. But the Thompson twins were cited in Detroit recently, so obviously they had a workout with the Pistons. So we'll see how that goes. But I would love to go to a tryout with Cam and the Thompson twins and Jarris Walker and Taylor Hendricks and Anthony Black, or a mix of 6 of those players. I would pay money and I would drive to Detroit just to watch that workout, to see them shoot the ball, and also to see them maybe play 3-on-3. That would be pretty cool, I think. But just to take a look at guys, I mean, I know they talk about age, and age does matter. I in the last podcast I had mentioned that different players who had jumped, took big leaps from their freshman year to their sophomore year, and so even our own Jaden Ivey took a huge, and Keegan Murray, they both took huge leaps between their freshman year and their sophomore year, including their ability to pass the ball really improved. And even Jimmy Butler, he was 4 years, I think, at Marquette, and he was a non-passer, and then he got better by the time he went into the NBA. He became a much better passer. And so I know that's one of the big weaknesses people talk about Cam, but I think Cam can play the small forward. And so that's another reason that I really want him where like Jarris Walker and Cam are basically the same height. Walker has a little bit more length, but also Walker is pretty much 2 years older than Cam. So that makes a difference. And again, the Thompson twins, they're all 6'7". All these guys are 6'7". It's pretty amazing. The only one that's not 6'7" is Taylor Hendricks, who's a big favorite of mine. So the other guys are all 6'7", and Anthony Black is 6'7". I think Anthony Black, by the way, if you're an Anthony Black fan, I do not want the Pistons to draft him. But if I were to take the one person from everything I hear and read about uh, personalities and attitude and just the way they conduct themselves, Anthony Black, I think, sounds like my favorite player out of those guys. But he doesn't, he's a guard. We have enough guards, and he's not a shooter, and we need shooters. And so another curious thing is Amen and Asor Thompson. Amen is the better athlete of the two, and I'm going to be honest. Here's my picks. I want Whitmore first, and then if Whitmore gets taken by Houston just before we pick, I would want to take Taylor Hendricks instead of Amen Thompson. Would I be crushed if we got Amen Thompson? No, because frankly, I'm scared that we will pass on Amen Thompson because he does have, of all those guys, he certainly has the most upside. He is the best athlete. But it's funny, he always gets to play the point. But him and Asor, his twin brother, who's not quite as good an athlete, even though Amen had the ball in his hands, they played on the same team, and Amen was the point guard all the time. And so, but ironically, they have virtually the same number of assists. So that is very curious to me why he's not considered. I mean, that's impressive that you get the same number of assists and you touch the ball a lot less. But yeah, Jarris Walker's about 20, Anthony Black's 19, the Thompson twins are 20, and so I think again Cam has more of a chance to improve, and I think he will. And again, there's no guarantees. You don't get to work these guys out. Like I said, I'd like to go to the workout. I'd like to go to the interviews and hear what everybody has to say about them. So I'm going to talk about Monty. I have a lot to talk about Monty and about who he is. And he is a great man. And the person that we hired, if he's not the greatest coach in the world, he is a person that I would love to coach my son. And I'm going to be proud that he's the coach of my team. And real quickly, Tom Gores, when he talked about Monty, when we first got him, he said, "I couldn't be more proud to have Monty joining us at this important time to lead us into the next decade of our future." So we have him signed forever. So we have him signed for up to 8 years, and for sure for 6 years he's under contract for a whole boatload of money, over $12 million a year. And so, but Gores is exactly right. I was nervous. I was worried that we would hire Ali and he wasn't ready for the moment. And this is a critical time. And to have Monty join our team and be our head coach when these young players are all ready to move and our team's ready to, like he said, lead our team into the future. And he said he embodies all the qualities we want in a leader for our Piston franchise, and most importantly, a teacher and mentor of our players. He will have an impact on every aspect of our franchise on and off the court. Again, exactly the type of person that I would want to lead my team. He said after spending some time with Monty, it's clear that he's found a unique balance between achieving victory at the highest level and at the same time nurturing a culture of growth, development, and inspiration. So we're going to talk about it as we go along. I have a couple stories I want to share with you about Monty Williams. Inspires me, and I think he will inspire our players. He was the coach in New Orleans, and he was impactful there in the growth of that young team. And then he was the head coach of obviously the Suns, and they rose from being mediocre to having the best record in the NBA. So again, that's what Gores is saying. He has both sides. He has the ability to win, and he has the ability to nurture. And again, that's a great combination to have. So I'm beyond excited. This is a huge win for us. And I agree, and I think again, I think listening to seeing on Twitter and everywhere comments from Piston fans, everybody was, I think, feeling pretty down and feeling like nobody wants us and what's going on, and we're not going to get a good coach and whatever. And then we end up with a great coach. And so I think the vibe around the organization and the franchise is high. I think, and then I think hiring Steven Silas is another big boost to our franchise. But so this is Monty talking. I said a week ago I was not sure what the future would hold, but after talking with Tom and Troy, I was excited hearing their vision for the Pistons going forward. They had a thoughtful plan, and I am appreciative of the emphasis they placed on the personal side of this business. They showed tremendous consideration for me and my family throughout this process. So I don't know if I mentioned it before, but he was given a 6-year contract, and there's people that believe that he has his youngest son is in 6th grade. So that 6-year contract will take his son through his graduation from high school. And so Monty won't have to pull his son, and he'll be able to go through the same school system and graduate. And I think that the Tom Gores and Troy Weaver were cognizant of that, and that was a factor in why he got a 6-year plan. I also loved it that how he said that they have a plan, and I've talked about this before, from including my very first episode 50 episodes ago. I mentioned how Troy has a plan, and the plan is still in place. Not getting the top 3 pick was a big disappointment, but again, I can't wait 17 more days. We have till the draft, and the players are working out. It's going to be interesting. I do think there's going to be some surprises in the draft. I know I'm kind of jumping around here, but I think in the top 4, there's going to be a trade, or there's going to be a player that's maybe taken ahead of where other people think they're going to be taken. Unfortunately, if there's, in Amin Thompson, I know he's the one that everybody thinks has, this immense upside, other than the fact that he can't shoot. So, anyway, to continue with what Monty said, he said they had the thoughtful planning. He appreciates that. They showed tremendous consideration for me and my family throughout this process. They showed a commitment to the success and doing things the right way. As we discussed the team and express our collective goals, I realized that this would be a great opportunity for me to help a talented young team. And I think the more he dove in and thought and looked at our squad, I think, and I heard that he loves Cade, and that was certainly a thing, but our other players too, not just Cade. So, and that he would build a strong culture here in Detroit, and that is, we do have some, I think, again, Troy worries me a little bit. I think in the draft, Troy he likes to be tricky. He likes to go off script. He likes to, I think that he's clever. He's not afraid of going against consensus, which is good and bad, I guess. But I worry a little bit, but I do not deny the fact that Troy really has set a great culture for us. And I think that now we have Monty Williams and Steven Silas, and they're going to promote that culture in a positive way. And best of all, we have Cade, and Cade is going to be the leader of that culture, no matter what the other people, by having a player that's as committed to Cade as Cade is to playing the best basketball and having our team play the best, that the other players, it is contagious. And I think that we have a great situation going on in Detroit. This is obviously a special place with deep basketball history, and my family and I are looking forward to the opportunity to be part of the city and organization. So that's really cool. And obviously he's talking about, the bad boys and the going to work Pistons, and that we do have a lot of pride in our community and for our team and its history. Monty he played for 9 seasons in the NBA. He was the 24th player picked, and he averaged only 6.3 players. Often the best coaches are never the best players. But Monty, I have a real important story I want to share with you next episode, probably, about Monty Williams and what he's been through in his life. And some of you probably know a lot of it, but I'll share that later. But anyway, Troy said that he's the ideal prototype for this young team. he wanted a leader that was, and he said this from the beginning when they asked, "What are you looking for in a new coach?" He said, "I want a leader that's focused on discipline, defense, and development." And the Suns were in the top 10 in defense after Monty took over, and he's been shown that he's been good at developing players, and so that's he fits checked all the boxes. His capabilities, his experience, his philosophy checks all the boxes. Oh, I already said that. So high character and conviction, great leader and great motivator for our young core. And again, we're going to learn more and more that he, above his coaching ability, Monty Williams has high character and is just a truly great person. And so at first I thought I wasn't going to record this part about who Monty Williams is, but I guess I'm going to go ahead and tell. I have a couple stories to tell you about him. You may have heard them before, but I guess I really think it's important to share these with you because this really tells who he is and what he is about. So first thing you need to know, tragically, his wife Ingrid died in a car accident. When he was assistant coach at Oklahoma City, he had been the head coach at New Orleans, and then he got the job at Oklahoma City. And then his wife tragically was killed. She was driving her and three of her five kids. She had five kids that were ages 5 to 17 at the time. And she's driving down the road, and another lady with her dog crossed the center line, and Ingrid and the woman in the other car were both killed, and Monty was left to bury his wife and then care for five kids on his own. So that you just try to imagine that how hard that was. And he loved his wife so much, and they were so close. And he would go everywhere he went. He would talk about his wife, and people would say, he'd say, "I know they got tired of hearing me talking about my wife, but what else was I going to talk about?" So, the thing that I want you to listen to, though, if you get a chance, I know people are busy, but if you go to YouTube, you can listen to Monty Williams speaking at his wife's funeral, and it just explains who he is. He was not angry. He was not hateful. He was, obviously he missed his wife more than anything in the world, but he had nothing but forgiveness for the other person. All he did was tell everyone to not just pray for my family, pray for that other family because they're hurting too. And if you listen to that, you'll really be impressed, I think, with who he is. I know that at the time he was coaching Kevin Durant, and he worked out Kevin Durant every day. Monty Williams was the guy that worked Kevin Durant out at Oklahoma City every day, and he just said he just loved Coach Monty, and he couldn't even talk about it. When they tried to interview him about it, he couldn't even speak because he was so devastated. So, also, Monty Williams was the head coach at New Orleans, like I said, and his wife, Anthony Davis, was a young player there at that time, and he said Ingrid Williams was like a second mother to me, and I just think that says a lot. Now the kids are ages 12 to 24, and like I said, the youngest one's in sixth grade, and they were only 5 and 17, and here's this man, and he is a man. And another story I want to tell you about, though, was when Monty Williams was in college. He went to Notre Dame, and he was on the team, and he was playing basketball, and he was forced to skip 2 seasons because he was diagnosed with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, and it's a rare and potentially dangerous condition that involves an abnormal, thickening of the muscles between the chambers of the heart. And a famous player, all-star Reggie Lewis, that played for the Celtics, he died of it. He was in the off season, but he was playing basketball and he died. But it was at least back then, it was the leading cause of death among young athletes. And so here, Monty, it killed him. He was forced to quit playing. The University of Doctor discovered it, and he told him he would never play again. Well, Monty, against the advice of his doctors, coaches, and trainers, he was playing pickup basketball. And he just continued to play. And, later it was determined that after missing 2 years, that the case was mild enough. He was reevaluated and it to allow him to play for Notre Dame. And so he came back. He averaged 17.4 points and 9.4 rebounds and played 35 minutes a game and had some great games. And he said it's really like a dream just playing again. I thank God for the opportunity to have a second chance at something I care to do. I really can't explain how happy I am inside having the chance to show my talents and help my team. And again, a young man like Monty Williams having that ripped away from him. His coach was later an NBA coach, John McLeod, and he asked Monty to attend practices, but Monty wouldn't do it. He said it was just too hard for him. He couldn't take doing it. And he was really close with this high school coach who came and watched him play at times. And during this 2 years, he would talk to him more than a couple times a week, and Monty would just break down and cry. He would say that he was overwhelmed by the experience of not being able to play. Monty said it was like taking your sight away. He became withdrawn and mad. He later apologized, to all the people. He felt badly that because he was so upset about losing basketball. But then he drew strength from reading this Bible and got back on the court. And his fifth game back, he had 31 points, 11 rebounds in 43 minutes, an overtime win over Rutgers. And so, it's a remarkable story about, perseverance and him overcoming and having to struggle through that. He said, I think the experience of having to sit out was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. And here is, 21 years old or whatever he was at the time. I wish things hadn't been so severe, but sometimes it takes a great impact before you realize where you are in life. So, Piston fans, we have a great man as our leader, and I'm excited about our future and what he's going to, the influence and the mentoring he is going to have on our players and to be better men. And so that is more important than winning basketball games by far. So anyway, do something nice for somebody today. Thank you for listening to the 50th episode of the Pistons Fanatic, and go Pistons.